Has your family ever had a tree that just didn't quite fit in the spot that you wanted it to be? I think Robert Barry may have had the same problem. And so I bet that's what gave him the idea for this story that he wrote about Mr. Willowby's Christmas tree. And Mr. Willowby solves the problem by actually helping another person and several creatures. So let's see how he solves the problem. And I'm going to share with you the front title pages too of this book, because Robert Barry did some illustrations there, which also goes with the story. Here's his woodcutter, and what do you think he's shouting? Could it be timber? And that's what you'd say if you're cutting down a tree to warn people to get out of the way. And here is Mr. Willowby's Christmas tree going special delivery on the Northern Tree Company truck all the way down the mountains. So let me get it positioned here so that you can see all the pictures. And this is how the story goes. Mr. Willowby's Christmas tree came by special delivery, full and fresh and glistening green, the biggest tree he had ever seen. Oh, he dashed downstairs to open the door. This was the moment he had waited for. A magnificent tree! Splendid, he cried. Please, sir, won't you carry it inside? I think it might look best this year, right in the parlor corner here. But once the tree stood in place, Mr. Willowby made a terrible face. Ah! The tree touched the ceiling, then bent like a bow. Oh, good heavens, he gasped. Something must go. Baxter the butler was called on in haste to chop off the top, though it seemed quite a waste. Oh, but that's great, said Mr. Willowby, crying with glee. Now we can start to trim the tree. When the trimming was all well underway, the top was placed on a silver tray. Baxter said, I know just who would be delighted with this Christmas tree. So he headed upstairs to present it to Miss Adelaide, Mr. Willowby's upstairs maid. She was thrilled. Won't this tree be a pretty sight when I have trimmed it later tonight? But the top, oh dear, I'm so afraid will have to be cut, sighed Miss Adelaide. And so with scissors sharp and long, she snipped off the top while she hummed a song. The top was set out the very next day in the back of the house to be thrown away. That tree top caught the eye of Tim the gardener passing by. He certainly was not about to see that little tree thrown out, so he hurried home straight away to see what Mrs. Tim would say. Fa la la, surprise, surprise. His wife could not believe her eyes. But our house is so snug and small, I do not believe we need it all. And before Tim had a chance to shout, she cut off the top and threw it out the door. Barnaby Bear was padding by. It almost hit him in the eye. Now, who would throw a tree away so very close to Christmas Day? I'll take it home, that's what I'll do. Look, Mama Bear, I've a present for you. Isn't it a pretty tree, yawned Barnaby quite drowsily? I should guess, because most bears are asleep in the winter, hibernating. But Little Bear, standing off far, cried out, But the tree won't hold a star. Barnaby said, Let's cut a hunk off the bottom here at the trunk. But Mama Bear just shook her head and sliced the tree top off instead. Jolly by golly, Barnaby said with a kick. Mama, that surely is just the right trick. Let's trim it with bells and honey rings, some berries and tinsel, and popcorn on strings. Mama said, trim it as you like. I've got to tidy up for the night. This top we won't need anymore. I'll put it just outside the door. Do you think anyone else will be able to use that? Well, later on that frosty night, Frisky Fox came into sight. He spied that treetop, rubbed his chin, opened his sack, and stuffed the top in. He scampered home and jumped his gate. This Christmas present couldn't wait. It's even better than mincemeat pie, said Mrs. Fox with a happy sigh. Then the foxes saw that their Christmas prize was just a bit oversized. There, my dears, don't you worry. I'll fix this top now in a hurry. And snip, snip, she took care of it. Benjamin Rabbit found it then just outside the fox's den. It seems, he thought, most certainly Santa left that for my family. Look, he cried, see the tree I found? With that he called his family round. Then there was a merrymaking, a rollicking, frolicking, carrot-shaking celebration around the tree. All were as happy as rabbits could be. Benjamin Rabbit, with his own hand, sliced a carrot and made a stand. What a clever idea. Now let's see how this will look in our little chimney nook. But right away, the children cried, look, it's leaning off to one side. It's just a little too tall, that's all, said Mrs. Rabbit. And as though it were a summer carrot, she gave it a chop and threw away the top right outside of her hole. And who would be passing by? Oh, but Mistletoe Mouse just happened to see that tiny tip of a Christmas tree. He pulled it through the snow and ice, up some stairs. He fell down twice. And at last he reached his cozy home. It's just the right size, said Mrs. Mouse. Then at the top, if you please, they put a star made out of cheese. Guess where they are? Look, it's under Mr. Willowby's tree. Oh, wasn't it grand to have a tree exactly like Mr. Willowby? Isn't that amazing? It went through all those places and ended up right back where Mr. Willowby's tree was. I hope you enjoyed that story. And if you have parts of your tree left over that you couldn't use, maybe you can put it outside and see if some animals make a home in it. Or you can make some bird ornaments by covering pine cones with peanut butter and some bird seed and hang it on those sticks that you cut off. I'm sure they would love it.